Good evening, Mulembe Mwesi, live from Kakamega Ingo, my home county of Kakamega, and we are talking about food, celebrating the World Food Day. And as they say in Kakamega County, Karibu Ingo, Karibuni Ingo. Sisi kama wanyeji wa Kakamega County, tunawakaribisha into this live discussion when we talk about the nexus between food and water and why the World Food Day this year had to stress so much on water and the role water plays in food production. So to have this conversation, the governor of Kakamega County has graciously given us his offices as this makeshift studio. So he's our host today, and he's sitting right next to me, Kakamega County Governor, FCPA Fernandez Barasa. Thank you very much for joining this conversation. And next to the governor, we have FAO country representative, Ambassador Carla Mukavi. Karibu sana. Welcome to my home county. And then we have Lauren Landis, who's the World Food Program Kenya representative and country director. And then last but not least, we have a farmer from Kakamega County, Shanyisa Hasiani, who tells me she's a coffee farmer, and I think she would also like us to taste some of the coffee from her farm. So welcome, gentlemen and ladies, the only gentleman on the panel. It's nice to have so many women. Yeah. Usually we have conversations with many men or all men and no woman at all. So today it's nice to have it the other way around. So you're the odd one out. So usually we say ladies first, but today we'll say gentlemen first. Today we'll say gentlemen first, since it's just you. So tell me, Governor, the nexus between water and food. What is the situation like in Kakamega County?
First and foremost, I want to confirm that water is a very important component when it comes to food production. And when you look at the statistics in Kakamega, our food poverty index is around 47%, compared to the national index of 32%. That means we are doing very well on food production, and we have done a lot of investments in water catchment areas, especially the Kakamega forest. By conserving the forest, we are at least assured of rainfall, which is a very important component for our food production. So in Kakamega, we are not so much having a challenge with water. The only issue, of course, is to ensure that we have opportunities and strategies for conserving that water through rain harvesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ambassador, why today? Because World Food Day is celebrated on the 16th, but here we are on the 26th in Kakamega County celebrating World Food Day. Why today?
We are celebrating actually World Food Day because of the different commitments we could not make on the 16th.
Please raise your microphone.
We are celebrating World Food Day today because of different commitments. We could not make it on the 16th of October, which is really the day that the FAO was established in 1945 after the World War II. And of course, later we were joined by WFP, who is here represented by my sister, Lauren Landis, the FAO, of course, WFP country director. And of course, after IFAD, which is the International Fund for Agriculture Development. So I would say that we are here really to celebrate. This is an occasion to really galvanize support, because we need support to ensure food security and nutrition. It's an occasion to attract investment, to mobilize resources, because we need the resources again to ensure food security and nutrition. We know that food security and nutrition is threatened by climate change and other factors. But we also know that we have gains, in ensuring food security and nutrition. We just heard what the governor said, that of course that the country is doing quite well when it comes to food security and nutrition. But we know that there are also other countries that are really challenged. We just emerged from the drought, a prolonged drought that really affected around 5 million, of course, of Kenyans. We are seeing now, of course, and then we know that, of course, drought is literally absence of water. So this conversation is so timely. Actually, we see again that El Nino is looming, which means that we will have maybe abundant water. So it's a timely conversation because it allows us really to focus on the importance of this resource that is so critical for food production. And it's through food production that we can ensure food security and nutrition. So we want to really take this opportunity to discuss, to reflect, to celebrate, and also to agree on the strategies that we should really address the challenges that we are still facing on food security and nutrition.
Great. You know, someone just sent me a message and told me, Zainab, you told us who your panelists are, but you haven't told us who you are. Yet they called me Zainab, who I didn't tell you who I am. In Kakamega County, I'm known as Omtoi because this is my home county. But the government of Kenya knows me as Zainab Wandati. So when we're in Kakamega or anywhere in Luyaland, you can call me Omtoi. But for the purposes of this discussion, Zainab Wandati is how I go by. And you can also join this conversation online. The hashtag to use is already on your screen. You can tag us at NTV Kenya and at Zain Wandati, and we'll sample some of your comments. Now, Lauren, moving on to you. Water security is, water scarcity is something that the world is having to grapple with. But we know food production is a heavy consumer of water. In fact, the bulk of the water that the world has goes into food production. How can we strike this balance to ensure that everyone has access to this clean water to drink and also water for agricultural use?
Yeah. This is a really interesting question. As the World Food Program, we are really focused on food security. But we really realize that without water security, without good water management, we'll never achieve food security. So when we find water scarcity, we know that we're in trouble. We're going to have problems with food security. And so really, a lot of the things that we work on in Kenya is to really improve the water management. Now, what do I mean by that? It means things like repairing water pans so that we can make sure that even in times when there's not that much water due, say, to drought, as Carla pointed out, we still can retain as much water as possible. We work on clearing canals. We work on extending solar irrigation so that we can get water down to the smallest smallholder farmers, so that we can really prolong the use of water for as long as possible and have it reach as many people as possible. So it's a global problem, water scarcity, but I think water management is one of the key ways that we can deal with it, both globally and in Kenya.
Now, Shanyisa, the governor here has said Kakamega has no problem with water insecurity. And you're a farmer in this county. Is that how it's like on the ground? Do you yourself have a problem with water security?
I want to agree that in Kakamega County, we are blessed with adequate water. When you look at it from January till December, we receive enough water from rain, whether it is the long rains that come in early in the year or the shorter rains later in the year, which is about now. When you put it together, really, the county receives adequate rain. Receives adequate, those ones who have their thatched houses, as well as those ones who have the mabati houses. Why aren't we doing roof catchments so that when it has rained heavily, we are secure in terms of water? We don't. It rains heavily tonight, and tomorrow morning, first thing, we're rushing to the river. And so that could be a problem of knowledge, technology, and buying into technology, but also probably, Your Excellency, Mr. Governor, we need to be able to talk to farmers and find out, because the technology such as roof catchment is something we have known, we have been with over the years. Why aren't we using it so that we run out of water, not just even during the dry spells, but during the heavy rainy season. So those are some questions we need to ask ourselves and be able to have a conversation with farmers to find out that what is the issue.
Great. So that's an excellent question for the governor to answer when we come back from this break. We'll pick up from the question by Shanyisa. Remember, this conversation is in commemoration of World Food Day, looking at the nexus between food and water. And this year's theme is water is life, water is food, leave no one behind. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. We are live in Kakamega County talking about the nexus between food and water in commemoration of World Food Day. This is a live forum, live from Kakamega County. Kakamega is the host of World Food Day this year. Each year it goes to a different county, and sometimes you're able to join, other times. But Kenya, it's a day that's marked all over the world. And so this year, Kakamega County are the hosts of World Food Day. It's celebrated on the 16th of October, but Kenya this year is celebrating today due to unforeseen circumstances. Now, Governor, before we went on break, Shanyisa had asked your question, but as you answer her question, I'd like you to tell me what is the distance that the locals here have to go in order to access clean drinking water, because you started by saying that Kakamega has no issues with water.
Just to answer the question from my sister Shanyisa, what we are doing as a county is to invest in agricultural extension services. Whereby we have employed quite a number of extension officers who will go out there and do sensitization to our farmers on water storage. Because we don't really have a challenge in terms of the rain-fed agriculture. But the issue of having storage, we have also gone a step ahead to do affirmative action. We're also building houses for the vulnerable. And you make sure once you build that house, there's a water tank, 10,000 liters. Of course, it's a Mabati house, so that to demonstrate that really we are very committed on water storage. But the bigger approach is and strategy is about sensitization of the farmers on matters, making sure that when you have the rain water, at least we have some storage facilities. In terms of distance, I can put an average of half a kilometer, but largely most of the water sources, we actually have the wells, and you also have now we are digging a lot of boreholes in the homes. So we don't really have a big problem in terms of the distance. In fact, in my agenda, making sure that wananchi and our household have water at the doorstep. There's a clarion call in my mother tongue, which I know Kala may have a problem, is amazo muriango. That is water at the doorstep. We have invested a lot through our Department of Water, so that we have the water schemes which are capital in nature, and then we do now last mile connection to our households. This will achieve, to a great extent, my clarion call of water to the doorstep. Yeah.
And how many households have you connected so far?
So far, average, we have done like 100 households per ward.
Okay.
But of course, we have a target of making sure that in the next 1 year, we'll have done almost 1,500 boreholes. And this is, of course, going to be replicated for the next 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ambassador, is there a connection between the quality of water and contamination of water and food production? Because we've seen cases where food is grown where there's raw sewage or sewage water, and then it yields very nice-looking leafy vegetables. Does that affect the quality of the food?
Surely it does. Surely it does. This is, again, it's really so important to raise awareness among the communities on the need for safe water, because safe water, if water is not safe, it can really contribute to food and safety. So food safety is a big issue. At the household, of course, level, we know that we use water even to prepare our food. And if that water is not safe, of course, it is going to contribute to the contamination, and even, of course, it can really drive to illness and diseases. So I would say that it's really so important that we ensure that the water that we use is really safe, because this is going, of course, to contribute that we have that production and that productivity that is also safe, which again, it will really reflect on food security and nutrition. If, of course, water is not safe again, and I should really here say that water is really such resources that is used and highly used across the whole food value chain, from production to consumption. So along the value chain, we have to ensure that the water that is used is really safe. We know that there are challenges there, particularly when we talk about water scarcity. That's why we have situations where, of course, water is contaminated. We can really see animals being affected. We can really see kids being affected. So raising awareness and working towards addressing those challenges is very critical.
Lauren, you work a lot with vulnerable communities through the work you do at WFP. And I'd just like to talk a little bit about this year's theme, the World Food Day theme. Water is life, water is food, leave no one behind. And these vulnerable communities that you work with, particularly the refugees and the likes, are people who are often left behind, not just when it comes to water, but in everything. They're often left behind. How do we ensure that they too get equitable access?
You know, that's an excellent question, because I think all around the world, the most marginalized populations live on the most marginalized lands, and they have the least access to resources. So this is where we really, as the UN, as NGOs, as county governments, really need to focus our attention. The World Food Program, in particular, really looks at the linkage between food security and water security for these most marginal areas. And that's where we really look at how can we work in partnership with others, but also how can we link, how can we be that linkage to make sure that those resources are getting to those populations. So that might mean repairing boreholes, that might be water pans or other forms of storage that we've been talking about. It might be, as I said before, clearing irrigation forms. It might also be introducing new technologies. What about hydroponics that takes less water and used on less and where there's fewer lands? Those types of innovations can really help marginalized populations. And really, in Kenya, that's where we focus most of our attention.
What is the progress you've made you said that's where you're focusing your attention. Yeah. What is the progress you've made so far?
I mean, one example, it would be that probably, and you wouldn't think of it when you think of the World Food Program, but we have about 50 water projects in Kenya right now. They have allowed us to open up 4,000 hectares of farmable land. And what that means for us is that about 200,000 people no longer need to be a beneficiary of food aid. They can work on their own resilience and they can build their own livelihoods. So it really makes sure that smallholder farmers are more sustainable, even in the most marginal areas.
Shanyisa, what kind of farm are you? Are you a small-scale farmer, medium-scale, large-scale? What kind of farm are you?
I'm a coffee farmer, primarily, but I also grow, like we all do in the county, maize for food. As you know, it's our staple food. I grow bananas. And I want to say that actually the county has been very instrumental in distributing seedlings, banana seedlings to, I think they are called sakas or something like that, to farmers. I benefited from them personally. And then I also grow arrowroots, just usual farmer food,
Yes,
but I'm a serious coffee
farmer. Now, as a serious coffee farmer plus a mixed farmer of various foods, would you say that you're a sustainable water user?
That I'm a sustainable
water user. Do you use your water efficiently?
No. No, and I'm saying this candidly, and it's a challenge to me, and also to just bring to the attention of decision makers. And here we have the governor and serious decision makers here, that if somebody like me at my level is not using the water available to me sustainably. And when I say sustainably, obviously I'm talking about like harvesting it and storing it so that I have water throughout the year. And that should be possible in this county. You can imagine how about the other farmers who have not reached and been exposed to the extent that have been exposed. And so what the governor said about sensitization is very, very important. But the governor also needs to understand that there's, of course, competition in the decision-making of farmers. That should I concentrate on constructing those the things on the mabatis,
the gutters, rain gutters, yes.
Or should I focus on food, just trying to survive today for food? I mean, we are that poor, and we shouldn't pretend that we are not, and we should really face it, that challenge, and be able to see how we can resolve that. Collectively, we are here. We can help each other.
So you're saying you do not have water storage? Do you have water storage?
You see, I have 2 farms. And in one, I have water storage, and in the other one, not. Okay. Why don't I have in both? I'm just using that as an example that it gets worse below me. Do you see?
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So just finally, to you, how much land do you have?
I can answer that in 2 ways. One is, what do I own? Which is very important as a woman. As a woman, yes. So I own about 30 acres of land, which is big.
You're not a small-scale farmer, therefore.
Well, it's relative. That's why I said, if I can make those mistakes or have those gaps, how about the other people who are not like me? But then I also have access to other land, or family land where family members are not there, therefore I can use it.
Okay. So we'll pick that up again when we come back. We need to take a very quick break so we can tell you what's coming up in the news at the top of the hour. Do not go away. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. We are still live from Ingo, talking about the nexus between water and food in commemoration of the World Food Day. Now, we're in the last couple of minutes of this conversation here in Kakamega County, the capital of the county itself. And we've heard from Shanyisa here saying how she's a serious farmer but still has challenges with water. And Governor, you talked about how Kakamega has no issues with water and Kakamega has a problem of getting water to every doorstep. How do you help farmers like Shanyisa?
When I look at the case of Shanyisa, I think it's an isolated case because owning 30 acres of land as a lady in Kakamega, actually we need to celebrate as our hero. In this World Foods Day. But it goes with the issue of sensitization because largely, of course, we have irrigation schemes which, again, we are trying also to sensitize our large-scale farmers, because when you have those irrigation schemes, then definitely you are going to increase food production. So the bigger issue now will be productivity, right? So just besides having, let's say, agricultural production, we now go to productivity by harnessing our water resources. Because when you do that, then definitely we are going to now increase the issue of food production and food security for that matter. And what we are doing in Kakamega County, number one, we are very strong in aquaculture. Because for you to be a leader in aquaculture, especially the Lake Region Economic Bloc, definitely to have some strategic steps that you are doing.
And there's a fish processing plant in the county.
Actually, we have a fish processing factory, the only one in the Lake Region. It's here in Kakamega, and domiciled in this sub-county, Lurambi, at a place called Lutonyi. We've moved our fish production for the last 4 years from 99 tons to 2,177 tons. That tells you that we've had specific interventions on aquaculture. We have constructed almost 1,000 fish ponds, new fish ponds. We are supporting our farmers with fingerlings, fish fingerlings. We've given almost 2 million plus fish fingerlings to our farmers. We're also having fish foods that we distribute to our farmers as grants. And on this one, I also want to really appreciate IFAD and therefore for the support in aquaculture. So those are some of the specific interventions that we have put in place, which of course requires water. So the fish ponds, you require water, now reservoirs, the fish production will require water. And for us, that is going to make a very big difference. Then lastly, of course, we have also gone ahead to support our farmers in fertilizer.
Yes.
We have a very big fertilizer scheme. Early in the year, we bought fertilizer worth 700 million, which we have distributed to our farmers. So right now we have a bumper harvest. In fact, farmers are now complaining, where are they going to store the maize?
Yeah.
The harvest has been threefold. And that is now what we want to sustain, so that we come up with programs of even buying some of the excess maize and putting in our storage. Yeah.
Okay, Carla, are there gaps in policy that you see if they were fixed, then this problem of water will be resolved?
Actually, as FAO, one of the areas that we are working very closely with the government and the county government is really on supporting the water institutions, looking at the strategies, looking at the policies, looking at the legislation. Because we hear, of course, from the governor, but particularly from the farmer, when she talked about the need really for that knowledge to manage water, because water has to be, it's really a resource that is not infinite. So which means that we have to manage it properly. And to be able to manage properly, we need the right policies, the right strategies. And we as a FAO, of course, in the context of the UN, we are working very closely with the government on that. Raising awareness, sensitization is really very, very critical. How do we reach down there to the farmers so that they are aware? We are talking about water harvesting. Again, there we should do more. We are, of course, I mentioned about the drought, which is really water scarcity. We are going into a season where we might have really water in abundance. How do we ensure that we capture, we harness this water so that we don't go in this cycle of really assistance and emergency? And to say again, and of course the topic or the theme of World Food Day 2023 is water is life, water is food, leave no one behind. And it really speaks to really this conversation that we are having, that without water, our lives, our protection would be really compromised. So therefore, we need to preserve, we need to manage, and policies, framework, and strategy are very key.
Very important. Okay, Lauren, do you envision cross-border collaboration as a solution, perhaps, a situation whereby Kenya will be working with Uganda and Tanzania and maybe any other regional country to assess how much water they all have and then how they can all help each other?
You know, that's a great question because water doesn't know borders, right? Aquifers go across county lines, they go across country lines. And so if we just think about designing water policies on one county or one national government, we might not get it right. So I think particularly in this time of climate change, we need to think about policies that are, well, how can I say it? Very much thinking about what climate change will look 10 years from now, not designing the policy for what we see today. Then we need to think about water and things like that that go cross-border. So we need to work with our neighbors to really pull that together. And then I think finally, we have to get ready for a little bit of change. And this may be provocative. I know that maize is the staple crop, but in these times of climate change and the lack of water, we may have to think about a little less maize and a little less rice, maybe a little bit more millet and some other products. Yes. So those policies also, we have to think about a little bit of change for the future as well.
Are there some maybe international best practices of collaboration that you've seen around the world that maybe this region could adopt?
The regional best practices, I think, there are many, many examples. I don't have one on my fingertips, but it's often when you think about the use of water that you have to think about how it affects every single nation. I mean, countries can go to war over water. So if we don't think about that, we also have to think about how it affects communities. Communities can fight over water. So from community level up to global, we need those regional and global policies, I think.
Yes. Laura, and one area that we should really embrace is technologies and innovation, because it can really allow us to address some of those challenges that we are really talking about. We know that, of course, rain-fed agriculture is no longer an option. So how do you ensure that, of course, you have got, the drip agriculture where you minimize the use of water, but you really maximize production and productivity, again, to ensure food security and nutrition. So I really wanted to emphasize the importance of really science, data, technologies, and innovation, and particularly to also attract young people into agriculture, which is really one of the opportunities that agriculture can offer.
You know, you're talking about attracting people to agriculture, and Kenya has been struggling with young people particularly because the average age of the farmer in Kenya is about 62, 63 years old, and the young people who are going into agriculture, they are looking at it as a get-rich-quick scheme. So they are going in to make quick money and get out. But Shanyisa, you said as a medium-scale to large-scale farmer, you have challenges yourself. But I believe you have some practices that you think other farmers could benefit from if they learned from you. So what do you think other farmers could learn from you? Lift your mic.
Benchmarking has been given a bad name. But when it refers to other cadres of employees, but when it comes to farmers, I think we should rethink it and get farmers to learn as quickly as possible from other farmers in other counties. We do not even have to think about them going abroad, just learning very quickly good practices that they can effect from our neighboring counties and from counties around the country. I also want to say that marketing, farmers are trying to produce, and they're putting in a lot of effort. But they lack markets. What do I mean? That they produce their sweet potatoes and then they sell a whole bunch of them for 100 shillings. Because the buyers are also poor farmers. So those are some of the issues we need to think about. We need to think about. And then the issues of fertilizers. The governor mentioned, it is true, I've been a beneficiary, especially from the point of view of subsidizing. But Your Excellency, 2,500 shillings is a lot of money for most households, for most farmers. They are still making a choice between buying fertilizer and buying food. We do not even operate at that level. Even for me, because I have about 16 acres of land under coffee and 16,000 trees. And when you give the recommended fertilizer application, I have to buy a fertilizer and just one type, NPK, for example, worth 500,000 shillings. It's expensive, and it is more expensive and inaccessible by other farmers. So we're leaving some people behind. We need to. It's still a good step, but we need to think about it and go even further. I don't have a solution now, but we can think together. Okay. And then the issue of accessibility in terms of roads. For me, I live in the village, actually. And I'm on rough road. If you call me around 8:39, I'll tell you, wait until I reach the tarmac road, which will take me. So it becomes difficult even to take your produce to the market. So road construction, even if it is just grading, to make sure that they are more easily accessible as you look for money and as you prepare to tarmac them, that will be appreciated by the farmers.
I need you to wind up on your point. So that
yes, I think that brings me to the end of that contribution.
Okay. Governor, it sounds like Shanyisa needs a seat on your advisory council.
Yes, actually, she brought up very good points.
She needs a seat on your advisory council so that she can tell you first-hand experiences from the ground. So we have about 2 minutes to wind up this conversation. So just quickly, your final thoughts, Governor. What would you like us to remember?
First and foremost, I want to welcome all the farmers in Kakamega and the region. Tomorrow to Bukura Agricultural Training College. As we celebrate the World Food Day, we're expecting to have 5,000 farmers. And of course, we want to emphasize on the theme of World Food Day, that water is life, water is food, and leave no one behind.
Yes, thank you. Ambassador, what would you like us to remember?
I think it's really very important, again, really to reiterate the importance of management of water. It's really a precious commodity, I would say, but it's really not infinite. So we have to manage it well, we need to harvest it, and we need to ensure that, of course, we use it in a very, let's say, best way we can. Okay. So again, the nexus and the opportunity to talk about really water and food security is very important. You cannot dissociate the two. If we want to increase production and productivity and ensure food security, water is essential and it's really critical.
Great. Lauren?
I want to leave on a very hopeful note. I see a lot of progress, still very far to go, but I see drought-resistant seeds. I see quick maturing crops. I see people planting many, many crops so that they aren't diversifying risk. I see a lot of learning taking place, and I see a lot of innovation happening. So I think we are working well. We have a long way to go with climate change and with managing our water appropriately. But I think I want to leave you on a hopeful note that we are making progress.
Okay. Shanyisa, what do you want us to remember?
Thank you very much.
30 seconds.
we're in the information age. And I want to also say that even farmers are trying to catch up and to participate. So that there are many WhatsApp platforms where there's a lot of selling, a lot of exchange of views. But then we need to also understand that, and this is Your Excellency, probably you need to do a census.
She has so many questions for you.
Farmers, Your Excellency, I'm not trying to badger you. I'm just pointing out that there is work for us to do. And I think when we met, we said we are available to think together.
Please allow me to cut you short. Allow me to cut you short. We need to get into the news. I believe the two of you can talk after this and get into all of that. So we've been having this conversation on the nexus between water and food production in commemoration of World Food Day. Tomorrow again we'll be at the at the Bukuru Agricultural Training College to continue with this discussion with even more farmers. My name is Zena Bondati. I would like to thank our panelists for making time for this conversation, as well as you, our viewers. Please do not go away. The news will be right up on NTV tonight.